Well, hello and welcome to this video where we hope to share some of our ideas and plans for the use of online gaming in mission. My name is Susie and this is my husband Sam, and together we're leading a new developing network of missional communities in northwest Norfolk called Good Hope Communities. And joining us today are Jenna and LCO. Give a wave, guys. Jenna and LCO have been a huge blessing to us over the last year, not least because they're currently doing a year's internship with us in Christian leadership and discipleship, where they've amazingly given up half of their time each week between work and study to do this. And together we've been following a programme of intentional Bible study. And we've also connected with a larger discipleship programme at Lighthouse Church in Sheringham too. But we've always been mindful in all that we've been learning to put it into practice, to apply it. And one of our most recent discussions has been on the use of technology, which I think you're going to explain further.
So I'm just going to do a quick recap because recently we've been looking at generational differences and how those differences impact our faith both positively and negatively. And our particular heart as Good Hope Communities is for young adults and families, so very much younger generations in the millennial bracket. And you may be familiar with that term millennial if you're listening, but millennials actually comprise two groups of people, Gen Y, and Susie and I are Gen Y, so they're born between 1982 and about 1995, and I'm reminded every now and then that I am at the upper end of the millennial age group. And then you've got Gen Z, which is after 96 to about 2011, and you've got Jenna and LCO. And as generations, we're classed as one because there's lots of similarities. And I guess particularly relevant to us sharing this mission adventure and what it's about is technology, that we're generations shaped by technology. It does work slightly differently between us, but actually we're both shaped by technology.
And a couple of weeks ago, we asked Jenna and LCO to go away and have a think about the ways that as a community that we can connect more with Gen Z in this area, how we can share and encourage them in faith. And you guys went away and you both came back with some incredible ideas and suggestions, one of which is the idea of using online gaming to connect. So I guess our first question to share out, to have a bit of a chat about, is why gaming? I don't know whether Jenna, maybe you could kick us off with this. Why did that come to mind first?
Yeah, of course. So of course, me and LCO are members of the Generation Z, as we've been talking about. And as Sam said, we've been talking about generational differences as well. So LCO and I went away and chatted about what are the differences in which each generation can communicate with each other? What do they tend to use, the methods? And of course, in our experience, it's all online. So whether this is social media or gaming, just chatting and sort of building communities online. So we sort of had a further discussion about that and chat about how we could relate that to faith, because I feel like gaming and faith can sort of be two different things that you might think are two completely different ends of the spectrum. But within our conversations, we actually both agreed that some conversations have come up when we've both been gaming, where people are asking questions about life and about faith within their online communities. And so we just felt that being able to harness that and create a space where people can ask these questions, but also have a good time and play games with their friends would be such a good way to sort of open that conversation up within young people.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, like you said there, it sounds like gaming came to mind immediately. Is it fair to say it's like a language almost, that's the way of communicating now, do you think, for a large majority, or if not all young people? Is that fair to say?
No, absolutely. I think because there's so many games out there as well that all different kinds of people are using. So it's not really only, the 12-year-old boy who might have his headset on playing the games, it's girls as well. And it's all different ages of children and teenagers, because there is such a large variety out there. Everyone seems to be using it. So
yeah, that's great.
I was going to ask,
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of games, I know we've talked, but could you share what kind of games specifically and things have we talked around about using? You might have to give a bit of explanation, because even though I'm Gen Y, I didn't know all of them, and you've been teaching me, so others listening and watching might need a bit of detail as well. So Elsie, do you want to say something about specifics about games that we've been considering?
Yeah. The first game that came to mind for me was a game called Roblox, which is a easy platform to go around, and it's safe for kids as well, as it has filtering on chat, so their moderation is really good. But another game as well that came into mind was Minecraft, which is a game that is known by a few people, but if you're not familiar with it, it's a game where it has a world which is already generated, and people just have fun creating, building things inside of this world. And kids love this because they can release their creativity, whatever they want to do inside. And both of these games have good communities that they always sharing sources how to safeguard kids as well, which is really good, that can be implemented in many different ways. So that's why these two games came into mind right away, due to what they have in terms of resources to safeguard kids.
Yeah, it's great. And I was going to ask as well, because one thing we talked about was Discord. It's not a game in itself, but can you share about that? Just a bit about Discord?
Yep, Discord is mostly used for communications between players itself. It was intentionally created for that purpose. So people would go, so if I would suppose I would create a game and I wanted somewhere more organized where the players could talk to each other, I would create a Discord server. And Discord server as well has a lot of resources to help moderate chats and all of those respective areas. So in that case as well, we would use Discord to for them to create groups where they can talk to their friends, know new people as well that they never knew inside of the game itself. Because some servers, they are so big that you don't really find people. So Discord is there to help you find other people to play with.
Yeah, that's a great description of how that could work, because it's amazing, isn't it, from what you've described there, that community is actually quite a big aspect of gaming, I think. Would I be right in saying that that's happening already? And those are just some of the ways that you described there, and how people how kids will communicate. And I guess that ties in, you mentioned before, Jenna, about how this could actually be used in a missional way. So we chatted a little bit about this a few weeks ago. How could this connect to faith? You said you'd sometimes think that these two things wouldn't be connected, but actually we've been exploring that there could be a really great connection there. I don't know, Jenna, do you want to maybe unpack that a bit?
Yeah. So I think the big thing is that young people and teenagers and children, they are asking questions. They are sat in their room thinking, is there more to life than this? And what about this? And what about God? What about faith? Especially kids that say they haven't grown up in a church environment, and they've got these questions and they feel like they don't really have anywhere to ask them. And so perhaps they might just think of these questions and nothing comes of it, or they might have a few conversations with their friends. So we really wanted to open up a space where kids and teenagers, they feel safe to ask these questions to one another in an environment where they're just with their friends having fun. And so these questions, they aren't big, scary, daunting things. They're actually things that we can have conversations about in everyday life and whilst playing games. And like I mentioned earlier, it's not uncommon for questions like these to come up within gaming communities. Playing games, it gets a bit late at night and these questions start to come in your head, and you're asking your friend.
I thought you were going to say, just as like you're blowing somebody up or something, maybe like raises big moral dilemmas, like whether you do that or not. But it's happening already, is what you're saying. Those questions. That's amazing. Yeah, I think that sounds, yeah, really interesting. Sorry to cut in on you there. But there's the opportunity is already there. Our thoughts have been that we'd actually be a part of that. I guess like the parallel would be like, you know, in real life kind of youth group kind of thing, but that's happening in the virtual world online. So that's what we're currently exploring and looking into all the e-safety, the safeguarding issues of all of that, which thankfully there's already quite a bit out there. We've been seeing other churches that are doing this as well.
Shall I say something? I just think I was super excited when you guys said gaming, because I used to game 15 years ago, and it's all moved on, so I've never used Minecraft or Roblox or anything, but I look forward to getting into it. But it has been interesting, the journey, that as this has come up with us, actually we were pointed to there is a church that does Minecraft church, in a sense, which uses that already. And also we had an amazing chat with Norfolk YMCA, who have got their own Discord server, and Discord is it tends to be older teens, so you've got to be 13 plus to use it. So it's not for kind of teenagers, if you like, you know, below that age. But yeah, it's just been amazing to hear about actually how there is stuff going on in different ways, and it's possible to do, even though, whereas, you know, looking from a slightly different perspective of safeguarding, we might think, oh my goodness, it's a daunting world. Actually, it does appear to be possible, and it is happening. So I think that's quite exciting as well, that not to be daunted by those, but actually it's a possible thing as well.
Yeah, and you guys have been busy recently. Your homework has been to go away and game and also but look into the practicalities of this, which we're really excited by, and that you've got the knowledge as well to go away and do that, which is great, and we're in the process of developing that at the moment. I think one thing I thought might be good just to unpack a bit further is where all this might lead to. And so we touched on the missional aspect of it there, but one thing that came up in our chats over the last few weeks has been the importance of connection, of relationship, and particularly that development from online relationships to real life meetups. And I think it was Elcio who said a few weeks ago, I'm just going to pick on you now, Elcio, sorry, he said how actually connection is still so important, that it wants, that often the case is that, you know, people want it, young people want it to transfer to real life. Do you think that is the case still, and that's where this should go in what we're doing?
Yeah, I believe that is a very important aspect of all of this. It is the interaction personally. And the way I see this building up to is sort of event. Once they get to know what it is all about, once we have a few things out there and people actually know who we are as persons, it will be easier by then for people actually to go, because you're going from a virtual world to a real life world, and there's always you always want to be safe inside of like those environments. So most case scenario, you won't really want to meet up. But then again, once you know what the team is about, what's going on, it's much safer. And what we really want is people to actually interact outside of the virtual world. And the importance in that is because even though you might know a few people inside and online, it is not the same thing as having and knowing people in real life. And one of the problems that I want to touch is that like we are getting further and further inside of the virtual worlds, I would say Generation Z. And this could be a good place to start grabbing them from that area and trying to bring them into real life or real interactions.
That's a really good point, because I think I'm going to go out on a limb here and say this, that there's sometimes a misconception, I think, that you know, from different generations, that this is kind of all that Gen Z want is to live within a virtual world. But what you've kind of said there, that doesn't sound like that's the case. There might be the enjoyment and the interaction with it, and that's still great, but there's still this desire to want the real life connection. And so that's really interesting, because that kind of goes against that you know, idea or image that's what younger generations, that's all that they want to live within. So that's something we're mindful with this, is that this leads somewhere, that this leads to some real life meetups, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say with Jenna, because I was going to say, Jenna, that I think you had that, didn't you? You've met people online and become friends and met in real life, which is you know, for most of us, my generation, gaming wasn't online when I was, you know, up until I was even 20. So you would know people in real life and game with them. But I think you said that you've done it the other way around. You've gamed with people and then they've become friends in real life. So
yeah, no, absolutely. I think as well, when you look at young people playing games, they can have friends all over the world, which obviously they're not able to meet up with in person. But I think what we're doing differently is, because we're keeping it community based sort of in our area, and we're we're starting with perhaps young people that might already know each other, and hoping that will branch out into sort of inviting friends along, and then this community just grows and grows. It means that they can meet up in person because they are all within the same general area. And we can just form this community that started off this small online, you know, things in common, games in common, to meeting up in person, asking these questions in person, having these conversations in person, which, like Elsie said, I think it's really important to start kind of bringing that back as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we should have perhaps pointed out we're in a very rural area here up on the coast in Norfolk, and so that was another reason why we thought this works actually particularly well, because lots of relationships and connections are quite spread out geographically, but whereas so gaming can cross that divide, but also as we lead to real life meetups, that is still possible over this area. So it's exciting, exciting to think where this will lead. And and who knows, if there is an overseas connection that does develop, we'll just have an amazing, like, you know, group trip, and like we'll have to it'll be an excuse for that. So oh, there's been some great stuff you guys have been sharing there, and I know there's a lot of ideas, and we're exploring a lot of things. We're really excited about this. I think in conclusion, though, I just wondered, for those watching this video, I just wondered if you guys in particular might have any advice you would give to churches who are looking to connect more with Generation Z in particular. Is there anything you would say to encourage them? I don't know if you'd like to kick us off, LCO. Did you have something to say?
Yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to add, which is on top of what Jenna has mentioned about people wanted to ask questions. So here's what I would like to advise, that I would like to say that it's a good thing to actually come into this community, because what we have right now in this current moment is places where they have the questions, but they cannot ask the question because there is a lot of regulations on what they can actually talk about religion based, which creates a problem for kids who actually want to know more. So they have the place, but they cannot ask the question. So bringing a place where they can actually ask the question creates an environment where they get to know God more. So my advice would be that, like, building the place itself would be a very good thing to do.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great, Elsie. Thank you. Is there anything you'd want to add to that, Jenna? Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, of course. I think, you know, as more generations come, it's just rapidly changing the ways in which we communicate. And I think we do just need to continue learning what's changing and what we can do to adapt. And so my kind of primary piece of advice would just be reach out and ask the young people in your life, you know, the children in your community, in your church, how is it you communicate? What games is it do you like? Or, you know, what medias are you using? What kind of conversations do you wish that you could be having about faith and things like that? Reach out and just find out more about what's changing and what they're using and how you can use that within church.
That's awesome. Oh, thank you. Oh, there's so much more there that I want to keep going with, but there's some great stuff there, and great encouragement as well. You know, the opportunities are there, the questions are there from what you said actually as well. You know, don't doubt that younger generations, young people have got these questions. They want to ask them, and don't think as well that they just want to live in a little online bubble. That's not at all the case. So don't doubt that they want those connections, they want that community. And I think what you've said there is great encouragement for that. So thank you guys, thank you Jenna, thank you Elcio, for all you've shared here today. We hope this gives the viewers of this video a snapshot of this particular missional adventure, and we look forward to sharing how it goes. So thanks. God bless.